Hey guys, welcome back to some of my StarCraft 2 strategy videos for team games. What we're going to be looking at here is when you're going against teams with double Zerg and you don't have one yourself, or you maybe only have one Zerg, in which case, in all the games I'm going to show you, it's where you're essentially outnumbered and the other team has a lot of Zergs, and I'm going to show you guys how to survive early pull strategies, what transitions you should do afterwards, and I'm going to show you guys kind of some mistakes we've made along the way, as well as what you can do to try and improve your chances of success. Unlike 2v2, 3v3 and 4v4 aren't really as well balanced, and double Zerg teams tend to have an advantage in almost all cases. But that does not mean you can't win, and in most cases it really is just map dependent. Because on maps with split bases or wide ramps, that's where double Zerg teams really excel, and that's where you're going to have the most problems, just because they always get map control because of how quickly they get speedings out. So what I've seen so far in this game is Red did an early pool strategy, so I just did a Forge first build here. You can do a Gate Forge build, it doesn't really matter the order too much. As long as they don't do a 6 pull or an 8 pull, as long as you get your Forge pretty much right away, you're going to be able to get a cannon up before they do any real damage. So in this game, we also see that there's a pretty standard opening for the Protoss player up here. Now, when you're facing a double Zerg and a Protoss team, usually what they'll do is say something like double 10 pull, and then the Protoss will get a 4 gate, and then they'll just try and kill one player off, and then the Protoss will try and break down the wall. But as you can see, my partner up here, very smartly, he didn't block completely. You can though, but he just has a probe ray to drop down a building, and he ended up going Forge first, while my other partner Purple here is just going for a tech-related strategy. He's going to be going DTs because usually when you're facing teams with double Zergs or teams that are very aggressive, they often forget about getting detection, and that's going to be a big deal, which will oftentimes get you back in the game or may just straight up win you the game if they don't get prepared for DTs. Because even though you might be a player down, you have to remember that the Zergs in the other team, assuming they don't expand right away, are going to be behind economically for a very long time. And all I end up doing is just going for a 4 gate. In the meantime, you can see the advantage of blocking off. You can do it on Dig Site, you can do it on this map, and you can also do it on Temple of the Preservers, where there's 2 bases that have ramps that are very close together, and it's actually advantageous in most cases to end up doing some kind of wall like this, because if one player is going for, at least can get some stalkers out or so on early, or have some sentries there, you're always going to be able to defend against kind of early pull strategies and make sure they can't break in. The cannons make sure that early lings can't do any damage to your wall before you get stalkers out. And it's just overall very advantageous for Terran and Protoss teams that don't have any Zergs, because you can easily defend against early pull strategies when you have a wall like that. So one thing that I usually do, if I end up getting forced into going a Forge first, it's not a bad idea against Zerg teams to get that +1 attack, because what this is going to do is your Zealots then, once they do get +1, will be able to kill the Lings in 2 hits instead of 3 hits, and that's a pretty big deal, because it's really going to increase the efficiency of your army. Another thing you have to be wary of, and I point out in this game to my one partner, I was like, make sure you check along the edge here for proxy pylons, because it's very easy to have an Overlord just kind of chilling right up here, and they warp in a couple units right into your base, and then all of a sudden, you're starting to fall apart a little bit. So my partner has DTs out here, and the mystery is now officially gone. And if he does this right, he should be able to kill this guy off completely, but he's a little busy sending his DTs to other places across the map, and he's done some pretty significant damage down here. This guy didn't lose too many drones, but the point is he lost mining time. He's almost going to lose his hatch. And you have to remember that this whole time that the probes aren't mining, this is time that they're going to be losing 40 minerals a minute for each and every probe that isn't on minerals here. So over the course of a minute, that's, several hundred minerals, maybe 500-600 minerals, perhaps even more. So that's a pretty big deal. DTs don't necessarily have to kill a ton of probes, they just need to deny some mining time, and also force the other team to get detection, because This in itself is another 300 mineral investment there. So just because he had DTs, that's almost 1,000 minerals he cost his player just because he wasn't completely prepared for it. And in this case we got lucky and we were able to basically defend early on and not lose any players. Usually you're going to lose at least one player when you're going against double Zerg teams, especially when the third player like a Terran or Protoss gets involved. And if it wasn't for a pesky supply block here, I would have been able to work in a sentry and keep those Zerglings from getting in my base. And as a result of my poor macro, I end up losing my main, but it's not too big of a deal because we still have even or more bases than they do, and also we have much higher tech units. Excluding these mutas, but Archon's pretty good against mutas last I checked. So just kind of speed up here, gets us some major fights. In the meantime, I'm just making sure I deny this gold expansion. Eventually I'm going to put some pressure down here so my allies can push top and double team the player up top. And if we did lose a player, for instance if I died, then my other partners should be able to counterattack, and usually they'll be able to kill at least one of them off. And Teal obviously has higher tech units because he ended up doing a 15 hatches and a really cool strategy. But that's pretty smart by them because if you're going against a team that doesn't have a Zerg, there's going to be a lot of situations where they're going to be completely blocked off with forges and whatnot. So just doing one early pull is all you really need to make sure that you force the early forge for Protoss players, where you forge Terran players to get a bunker early or something like that, and then the other player can just completely macro up. But besides this, we're able to get a pretty big lead here, and then we're just able to continuously apply pressure. And within about another 2 minutes here, we're going to get a pretty big advantage, and then we'll end up winning the game. So you can see, since Red ended up doing an early pull, he's not able to contribute a whole lot. So the more players you can keep alive, or the slower you can die, the more lopsided the game will be once you can do a counterattack. Now it's pretty hard to actually execute the defense early on, but if you're able to kind of learn how to do that, you're going to find that counterattacks are going to give you wins a pretty good amount of the time. Although I must say, I definitely have a higher win percentage when I'm playing this double Zerg team, just because between spine crawler rushes and doing some other kind of cheesy strategies, it's very easy to win as double Zerg teams. Alright, well thanks for watching the first game. I'm going to have a couple more for you here in a sec, and I'll show you kind of some mistakes that we did in other games and how you can kind of remedy that. So just hang on a sec and I'll have the next games for you. Okay guys, got game 2 loaded up here. So we're going to be looking at what you can do if, once again, you don't have any Zerg players on your team, and you're going against a team of double Zerg, and they also have a Terran here. This is really kind of your worst nightmare, where you have a map where you have split bases, and they have 2 Zergs and a Terran, so you're going to have a really tough time defending effectively against early strategies with early pulls and Hellions and other kind of builds like that. So just like on the previous map on Deeps, what you can do is you can block off on this map Temple of the Preservers, and really you need to put your buildings kind of on the outside so you can have some room for cannons on the inside. And it's not a big deal to make 2, 3, even maybe 4 cannons here to make sure that you can defend, because once the Terran gets involved, if he goes for quick Marauders or Marines or something like that, you're going to need at least 2 or 3 cannons to defend properly. But the gates and forges and everything else have enough hit points that they're going to hold up as long as you can at the time. You can see my partner kind of screwed up his placement of his buildings and he wasn't really thinking about it. But what I ended up doing, since I'm off on my own, I did a gate forge build to get my cannon up as quickly as I can here, and then I chrono boosted out my zealot. And on a bigger map like this, you don't have to worry about your zealot getting out in time as long as you chrono boost them. So even if you chrono boost workers first, you're still going to be able to get that zealot out in time to block. But if this was a smaller map such as a dig site, for instance, you're going to need to make sure you have a complete wall. Otherwise, there's a good chance they're going to end up breaking into your base. But if you're ever like not sure and you don't quite want to block off completely, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just leave my probe down here and just be ready to build a pylon in case if I see lings coming up my ramp, because then I can get the complete wall up and you can see the cannon's going to finish in not too long here. So even though even though the cannon doesn't get up right away, they aren't able to kill off my gateway before my cannon does get up. And at that point, they just wasted a whole bunch of lings to do nothing. And you can see as my Zell was getting low, I just had a building placed down there to make sure that it creates a complete wall and they can't get in. Because I don't really care. If they want to waste all their lings trying to get into my base, I'm fine with that, because that takes away big time from their early advantage, and also makes a counterattack from us more potently. So you're going to see here where if this gate was maybe, you know, one further out, the cybernetics core was here, and you had a cannon here, another cannon here, this is going to be able to repel this early marine pressure. But the cannon's on the outside, so the lings are able to hit it, and this is kind of a mistake that my partners made. But, you know, blocking for the first time on this map, we hadn't had a ton of experience doing it at this point. So we ended up failing here. But as you can see, the gate forge opening really is ideal, because even if, for instance, the Terran player came up here with a bunch of Marines, I could easily just put another building down there, and then my cannons are going to keep me completely safe. So even if you had Marauders, if I have 2 cannons and maybe get a Stalker out, or have 2 cannons and get a Sentry, or maybe even put down a 3rd cannon or 4th cannon, I'm going to be able to buy all the time I need. That it's going to take them so long to kill me off that my partners are going to be, you know, have 4 gates out or DTs or something like that, and then they're going to be able to counterattack and usually kill one off. So even though Zerg and Terra teams have an advantage early, if they don't kill someone off right away, the counterattacks against them are usually going to kill somebody. And there's not really much else to show you guys, because at this point we just lost too many units and we were just down a person too quickly to be able to end up winning this game. But I'll show you guys in the next game something a little bit different. I think it might even have been the same map. Alright, so 1 second, I have the next game up.